YouTube, Otaku here. We're going to be getting back into with page 401 of The Grapes of Wrath. I'm going to be your personal narrator. If you haven't been onto this channel before, please go to the channel description to go find out who and what this channel is for. And if you have been here before, let's go ahead and begin the eucalyptus inhalation ritual. Clink, clink. My name's Otaku, and I think I've already said that, but just in case. Sadly, she's all tuckered out. Yeah. Yep. I cast in the rest of her reservoir. Oh well. Let's just continue on. I've set my 2-minute timer. Yeah, we just found Casey, by the way. Wow, that's freaking crazy that we found Casey. I had a feeling, I knew I wasn't crazy that we read further about preachers, and by golly, we found Casey. Connie's not to be found, Noah's not going to be found, but we found Casey. Thank God. So it is possible to find other people in this world. Alright, let's do this. Well, said Tom, you heard there was a work this away, and we come and a bunch of state troopers run us in this here ranch. We here picking peaches afternoon. I seen a bunch of fellas yelling, they wouldn't tell me nothing, so I came out to see what was going on. How the hell did you get here, Casey? The preacher leaned forward and a yellow lantern light fell on his high, pale forehead. Jailhouse is a kind of funny place, he said. Here's me being going into the wilderness like Jesus just tried to find out something. Almost got her sometimes too, but in the jailhouse, I really got her. His eyes were sharp and merry. Great big old cell, and she's full all the time. New guy comes in and guys go out, and of course I talked to all of them. Of course you did, said Tom, always talking. If you was up on the gallows, you'd be passing the time while the hangman was there. Never seen such a talker. Friggin' Tom. The man in the tent chuckled. A wizened little man with a wrinkled face slapped his knee. Take all the time, he said. Folks kind of like to hear him, though. Used to be a preacher, said Tom. Did he tell you that? Sure, he told us. Casey grinned. Well, sir, he said on. I began getting to things. Something a fella in the tank was drunk, but mostly they was there because they stole stuff, and most of this stuff they needed because they couldn't have no other way, you see? No, said Tom. Well, they was nice fellas, you see. What made them bad was that they needed stuff, and I began to see that. It's a need that makes us all the trouble. I ain't got it all worked out. Well, one day, they gave us some beans that were sour. One fella started yelling and nothing happened. He yelled his head off. Trusty came along and looked at it and went on. Then another fella yelled. Well, sir, when we all got yelling and we all went at the same time, I tells you, just seems like that tank bulging and gaping and swelling up. By God, then something happened. They come a-running, they gave us some stuff to eat. Gave it to us, you see. No, said Tom. Casey put his chin down on his hands. Maybe I can't tell you, he said. Maybe you gotta find out. Where's your cap? I came out without it. How's your sister? Hell, she's as big as a cow. I bet she's got twins. Gonna need wheels under her stomach. Got a hole in it with their hands now. You ain't told me what's going on. The wizened man said. We struck. This here's a strike. Well, 5 cents a box ain't much, but a fella can eat. 5 cents, the wizard man cried. 5 cents? They're paying you 5 cents? Sure. We made $1.50 already. A heavy silence fell onto the tent. Casey stared out at the entrance into the dark night. "Looky, Tom," he said at last. "We come to work there. They said it's going to be 5 cents. There was a hell of a lot of us. We got there, and then they said they was paying 2.5 cents. A fella came to eat on that. A fella can't even eat off that, and if we got kids, so he says we won't take it. And they drove us off, and all the cops in the world came down on us. Now they're paying you 5? Well, they bust this here strike. You think they'll pay us 5? I don't know, Tom says. Paying 5 now. Looky, said Casey. We tried to camp together and they drove us out like pigs. Scattered us, beat the hell out of us, drove us out like pigs. They run you out like pigs too. We can't last much longer. Some people ain't eat for 2 days. You going back tonight? Aim to, said Tom. Well, tell the folks this is how it is, Tom. Tell them they're gonna starve us and stabbing themselves in the back. 'Cause sure as cow flops, she'll drop at 2.5 just as soon as they clear us out. I'll tell them, Tom said. I don't know how. Never seen so many guys with guns. Don't know if they'll even let a fella talk. And folks don't pass no time these days. They just hang down their heads and won't even give a fella a howdy. Try and tell them, Tom. They'll come and get 2.5 just the minute we're gone. You know what 2.5 is? That's 1 ton of peaches, picked and carried for $1. He dropped his head. No, you can't do that. Can't get no food off that. Can't eat for that. I'll try to go and tell the folks. How's your ma? Pretty good. She liking the government camp. Bathed in hot water? Yeah, I heard. It was pretty nice there. Couldn't find no work though. Had to leave. I'd like to go to one, said Casey. I'd like to see it. Fella says there ain't no cops there. Folks is their own cops there, Tom said. Casey looked up excitingly. And what was there any trouble? Fighting, stealing, drinking? No, said Tom. Well, if a fella went bad, what then? What'd they do? They'd put him out of the camp. But they wasn't many? Hell no, said Tom. We was there for a month and only one. Casey's eyes shone with excitement. He turned to the other man. You see? He cries. I told you. Camps can't cause more trouble than they stop and look. Tom, try to get to the folks in there and come on out. They can do it in for a couple days. Them peaches is ripe. Tell them. They won't, said Tom. They're getting us 5 and they don't give a damn about nothing else. But just the minute they ain't straight breaking and they won't get no 5. I don't think they'll swallow that. 5 there again. That's all they care about. Well, tell them anyways. Paul wouldn't do it, Tom said. I know him. He says it wasn't none of his business. Yes, Casey said disconsolately. I guess that's right. I have to take a beating before he'll know. We was out of food, Tom says. Tonight we had meat. Not much, but we had it. Think Paul's going to give us his meat on account of other fellas? And Rosa Sharon ought to get milk. Think Ma's going to want to starve that baby just because a bunch of fellas is yelling outside a gate? Casey said sadly. I wish they could see it. I wish they could see the only way that they could deepen on that meat. Oh, hell no. They're tired sometimes. God, awfully tired. I knowed a fella bringing on a while, and I was in jailhouse. Been trying to start a union. Got one started, and then them vigilantes busted up. And know what? Them very folks that been trying to help toss them out wouldn't have nothing to do with them. Scared they'll get Saul and his company. Says, get out, you're a danger to us. Well, sir, it hurt his feelings pretty bad. But then he says, it ain't so bad if you know, he says. French Revolution. All them folks that figured her out got their heads chopped off. Always that way, he says. Just as natural as rain. He didn't do it for no fun, no way. I'm doing it 'cause you have to. 'Cause it's you. Look at Washington, he said. Fit the revolution, and after, them sons of bitches turned on him. And Lincoln the same. Same folks yelling and killing him. Natural as rain. Don't sound like no fun, said Tom. No, it don't. This fella's in jail, he says. Anyways, you do what you can. And, he says, the only thing you got to look is at... Hold on, let me say that. The only thing you got to look at is that every time there's a little step forward, she might slip back a little, but then she never clears back. You can prove that, he says, and that makes the whole thing right. And that means there wasn't no waste, even if it seems like there was. Talking, Tom said. Always talking. Talk to my brother. He's out looking for a girl. He don't care about nothing else. A couple days he'll get him a girl, think about it all day and doing it all night. He don't give a damn about stepping up or down or sideways. Sure, said Casey. He's just doing what he's gonna do. All of us like that. The man seated outside put the tent flap wide. God damn it, I just don't like it, he said. Casey looked at him. What's the matter? What's the matter? I don't know. I'm just itching all over, nervous as a cat. Well, what's the matter? I don't know. Seems like I've been hearing something. Then I listen, there ain't nothing to hear. You're just jumping. You're just jumping, the wizard man said and got up and went outside. And in a second he looked into the tent. There's a great big old black cloud sailing over. Bet she's got thunder. That's what itching him. Electricity. He ducked out again. The other two men stood up from the ground and went outside. Casey said softly, all of them itch you. Them cops been saying how they're going to beat the hell out of us if we don't run out of the country. They figured I'm the leader because I talk too much. The wizard's face looked again. Casey, turns out the lantern is coming outside. There's something. Casey turned the screw. The flame drew down onto the slots and popped and went out. Casey groped outside and Tom followed him. What is it? Casey asked softly. I don't know. Listen. There was a wall of frog sounds that emerged with silence. A high, shrill whistle of crickets, but through the background came other sounds. Faint footsteps from the road, a crunch of clods up on the bank, a little swish of brush down the stream. Can't really tell if you hear it. Fools you. Get nervous. Casey reassured them. We're all nervous. Can't really tell you hear it, can you, Tom? I hear it, said Tom. Yeah, I hear it. I think there's guys that come from every which way. You better get out of here. The wizard man whispered, under the bridge span. Out of the way. Hate to leave my tent. Let's go, Casey said. They moved quickly along the edge of the stream. The black span was a cave before them. Just like that freaking one dude before they left the house. They went down to that, creek. They moved quietly along the edge of the stream. The black span was a cave before them. Casey bent down and moved through Tom behind. Their feet slipped into the water. 30 feet they moved and their breath echoed from the curved ceiling. They came out of the other side and straightened up. A sharp call. There they are! 2 flashlights beam fell on the men. Caught them, blinded them. Stand where you are! The voice came out of the darkness. That's him! The shiny bastard! That's him! Casey stared blindly into the light, his breath heavy. Listen, he said. Listen, he said. You fellas don't know what you're doing. You're helping the starving children. Shut up, you red son of a bitch. A short, heavy man stepped into the light. He carried a new wide pick handle. Casey went on. You don't know what you're doing. The heavy man swung the pick handle. Casey dodged down into the swing. The heavy club crushed into the side of... Whoa. Casey dodged down into the swing. The heavy club crashed into the side of his head. With the dull crunch of bone, and Casey fell sideways out of the light. Jesus, George, I think you killed him. Put the light on him, said George. Search the son of a bitch right. The flashlight dropped, searched, and found Casey's crushed head. Jesus Christ. We just got Casey back and they fucking killed him. Tom looked down at the preacher. The light crossed the heavy man's legs and the wide new pick handle. Tom leaped silently. He wrenched the club free. The first time he knew he had missed and struck a shoulder, but the second time he crushed blows, found the head, and the heavy man sunk down. 3 more blows found his head. The light danced about. There were shouts and screams and running feet. Crashing through bushes, Tom stood over the prostrated man. And then a club reached his head, a glistening blow. He felt the stroke like an electric shock, and then he was running along the stream. Bending low, he held the splash of footsteps following him. Suddenly he turned and squirmed up into the bushes, deep into the poison oak thicket. And he laid still. The footsteps came near. The light beams glanced above the stream bottom. Tom wriggled up through the thicket of the top. He emerged in an orchard, and still he could hear the calls, the pursuit into the stream bottom. He bent low and ran over the cultivated earth. The clods slipped and rolled under his feet. Ahead he saw the bushes and bounded the fields. Bushes along the edges of an irrigation ditch. He slipped through the fence, edged in among vines and blackberry bushes, and then he stayed still, panting harshly. He felt his numb face and nose. The nose was crushed, and a trickle of blood dripped from his chin. He laid still on his stomach until his mind came back, and then he crawled slowly over the edge of the ditch. He bathed his face into the cold water, tore off the tail of his blue shirt and dipped it in and held it against the torn cheek and nose. The water strong and burned. The black cloud had covered the sky, a blob of darkness against the stars. The night was quiet again. Jesus, he killed that fucking person because they killed the preacher. Tom stepped into the water and felt the bottom drop from under his feet. He thrust the 2 strokes across the ditch and pulled himself heavily under the other bank. His clothes clung onto him. They moved and made a skipping noise. His shoes squished, and then he sat down, took off his shoes, and emptied them. He wrung the bottom of his trousers and took off his coat and squeezed the water from it. Along the highway, he saw the dancing beams of the flashlights, searching the ditches. Tom put on his shoes and moved cautiously across the stubbled field. The squishy noise no longer came from his shoes. He went by instinct towards the other side of the stubble field, and at last he came to the road. Very cautiously, he approached the square of houses. Once a guard, thinking he heard a noise, called, "Who's there?" And Tom dropped and froze to the ground, and the flashlight beam passed over him. He crept silently to the door of the Jolt house. The door squealed on its hinges, and Maul's voice, calm and steady and wide awake. "What's that?" "Me. Tom." "Well, you better get some sleep. Al ain't in yet." "Must have found a girl." "Go on to sleep," she said softly, "over under the window." He found his place and took off his clothes and the skin. He lay shivering under his blanket, and his torn face awakened from its numbness, and his whole head throbbed. It was an hour more before Al came in. He moved cautiously near and stepped on Tom's wet clothes. "Shh," said Tom. Al whispered, "You awake? How'd you get so wet?" "Shh," said Tom. "Tell you in the morning." Tom turned on his back, and his snoring filled the room with gasps and snores. "You're cold?" Al said. "Shh, go to sleep." The little square of the window showed gray against the black of the room. Tom did not sleep. The nerves of his wounded face came back to life and throbbed, and his cheekbone ached, and his broken nose bulged and pulsed with pains that seemed to toss him about, to shake him. He watched the little square window, saw the stars slide over and under and drop from sight. At intervals, he heard the footsteps of the watchman. At last, the roosters crowed, far away, and gradually the windows lightened. Tom touched the swollen face with his fingertips, and at his movements, Al gasped and murmured in his sleep. The dawn came finally. In the houses, packed together, there were a sound of movement, a crash of breaking sticks, a little cluster of pans. In the graying gloom, Maul sat up suddenly. Tom could see her face, swollen with sleep. She looked into the window for a long moment, and then she threw the blanket off and found her dress. Still sitting down, she put it over her head and held her arms up and let the dress slide down to her waist. She stood up and pulled the dress down across her ankles. Then, in her bare feet, she stepped carefully to the window and looked out. And while she stared at the growing light, her quick fingers unbraided her hair and smoothed the strands and braids them up again. She then clasped her hands in front of her and stood motionless for a moment. Her face was lightly sharpened by the window. She turned, stepped carefully amongst the mattresses, and found the lantern. The shade screeched up and she lighted the wick. Paul rolled over and blinked at her. She said, "Paul, you got more money?" "Huh? Yeah. Paperwork for 60 cents. Well, get up and go buy some flour and lard. Quick now." Paul yawned. "Maybe the store ain't open." "Maybe it'll make 'em open it. Go and get something if you fellas. You got to go get out to work." Paul struggled in his overalls and put on his rusty coat. He went sluggishly out the door, yawning and stretching. The children awakened and watched for under their blanket, like mice. Pale light filled the room now, but colorless light. Before the sun, Ma glanced at the mattresses. Uncle John was awake. Al slept heavily. Her eyes moved to Tom. For a moment she peered at him, and then she moved quickly to him. His face was puffed and blue, and the blood had dried black on his lips and chin. The eyes of the torn cheek were gathered and tight. "Tom, what's the matter?" "Shh, don't talk loud. I got into a fight." "Tom, I couldn't help it, Ma." She kneeled down beside him. "You in trouble?" He was a long time answering. "Yeah, in trouble. I can't go out to work. I gotta hide out." The children crawled near on their hands and knees, staring greedily. "What's the matter with them, Ma?" Ruthie said. "Hush," Ma said. "Go wash up." Poor Tom. Page 410. "We got no soap." "We got no soap," Kid said. "Well, use water." "What's the matter with Tom, Ma?" "Now you hush and don't you tell nobody." They backed away and squatted down against the far wall, knowing they would not be inspected. Ma asked, "Is it bad?" "Nose busted. I mean the trouble." "Yeah, bad. Al opened his eyes and looked at Tom. "Well, for Christ's sake, what was in you?" What's the matter?" Uncle John asked. Paul clamped in. They was open all right. He put a tiny bag of flour and a pack of lard onto the floor beside the stove. "So what's the matter, huh?" Tom braced himself on one elbow for a moment, and then he laid back. "Jesus, I'm weak. I'm going to tell you once, so I'll tell all of you. How about the kids?" Ma looked at them, buddied up against the wall. "Go wash your faces?" "No," Tom said. "They gotta hear. They got to know. They might blab it, they don't know." "The hell is this?" Paul demanded. "I'm gonna tell you. Last night I went to go see what all that yelling was about, and I found Casey." "The preacher?" Ma said. "Yeah, Ma, the preacher. He was leading the strike. They come for him." Paul demanded, "Who come for him?" "I don't know. Some kind of guys that turned us back onto the road at night had pick handles." He paused. "They killed him. Busted his head clean open. I was standing there and I went nuts. Grabbed the pick handle out from his hand." He looked bleakly back into the night, the darkness, the flashlights as he spoke. I clubbed a guy." Ma's breath caught in her throat, and Paul stiffened. "Killed him?" he asked softly. I don't know. I was nuts. Tried to." Ma asked. "What was you saw?" "I don't know. I just don't know, Ma. I guess they had the lights on us." For a moment, Ma stared into his eyes. "Paul," she said, "break up some boxes. We got to go get breakfast. We got to go to work. Ruthie, Winefield, if anybody asks you, Tom is sick, you hear? If he tells you, if you tell, he'll get sent to jail, you hear?" Yes, ma'am, Ruthie and Whitefield said in unison. Gosh, page 411. "Keep your eye on him, John. Don't let nobody talk to nobody." She built the fire at Paul, broke the boxes that held the goods. She made her dough, put a pot of flour to boil. The light wood caught and roared its flame in the chimney. Paul finished breaking the boxes. He came near to Tom. "Casey, he was a good man. When What did he want to mess with that kind of stuff for? Tom said dully. They come to work for 5 cents a box. That's what we're getting. Yeah, but what they were doing, they were breaking the strike. They gave them 2.5 cents. Can't eat off that. I know, Tom said wearily. That's why they struck. Well, I think they busted the strike last night. Well, maybe he'll be getting 2.5 cents today. Why, those sons of bitches, Paul said. Alright, this is where I'm going to end off. 411. Y'all take care. Peace.